Welcome to this year's State of the City Address. If you would please rise with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start by introducing Pastor Bill Carroll for our morning prayer.
Good morning, everyone. Please pray with me. Dear Father, we thank you for the many blessings the city of Lockport has received. Thank you for the long history of men and women that worked hard to establish and grow this city. Thank you that we can now live here and benefit from this heritage of great leaders. I pray for those who are in office that govern this community, that they make wise and godly decisions which are always in the best interest of the community. I am glad that we have the freedom to speak up and vote for those people who represent us. I pray for these city leaders to be blessed by you. God, please bless these men and women in city government, the mayor's office, all elected officials, and residents. Thank you, Father, that we know that you know the end from the beginning and that you are truly in control of all that happens. Guide, protect, and supply our community as we move into the next chapter of our city's history. Please give us a humble submission to identify the needs of the people and a wisdom to create change in our city that will meet those needs. Thank you, Father, that we do know that our future is secure in you. Praise your name and thank you for your loving kindness. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. That came to those businesses to watch us this morning, as we're really excited and looking forward to hearing this message today from the mayor. Those restaurants are Lock and Mule, Stagecoach, Embers, 933, Papa Joe's, and Coombs Corner. Thank you again. As we move into it, I'd like to thank everyone again for attending and their support of the Lockport Chamber of Commerce and the City of Lockport. And now as we keep this thing moving this morning, I'd like
It's how everything happens in the city. It doesn't happen from the mayor, it doesn't just happen from staff, it doesn't just happen from council, it doesn't just, all these folks working together is what makes it happen. So I want to thank you for that. And every committee that people volunteer for, auxiliary police, just the different groups all over. Big thank you before we get started. So let me get rolling here. So lots of stuff to talk about. The nice thing about this kind of format is now, and you're like, I'm halfway through, and you're like, you can get up and leave, and I won't be offended because I won't know. But although my family will probably do that. No, they won't. They'll be good. Hey, before we get started, though, I want to bring Wendy up. So come on up, Wendy. She's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the things that she works really hard on. She puts countless hours in as the committee chair for the Summer Art Series. It's all voluntary. I can't tell you how many things she's come up with or the hard work she does. I want to thank you so much for that. So,
thank you.
Okay, I'll put your slide up.
Okay. Thank you so much. And one of the things that I want to point out that I think is so important is one of the reasons that the Summer Art Series is so successful is because we have a team of people as well. And I also am able to do so much because of the reputation and the relationships that Mayor Streit has been able to keep and maintain and help flourish, and also our city administrator, Ben Benson. The things that I'm going to be talking about today, I couldn't have done without either of them and their support and the men that they are. So I am so grateful for both of them, and we are very fortunate as a city for having both of them. I would like to remind you about the commercials that you saw right before we started this. We were very excited and had a lot of fun with those. There are going to be more of those commercials coming out that are about our city, about our restaurants, and about our really cool places to come and visit here in Lockport. So start looking for those on social media, and you guys can share them with your friends. And our hope is that they will inspire people to come to our community and see all the really cool things that we have going on here. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is our Keep Our Small Businesses Afloat program. These are our ducks, and if you've been paying attention on social media, you will have seen some of these ducks already coming out. And I'm so excited about how this worked out. We raised almost $100,000 for our businesses. And for those of you that may not understand how the program worked, basically, through the help of Ben Benson and Mayor Streit, I was able to work with them and work with businesses that were able to continue to flourish during our COVID pandemic situation. And we reached out to those businesses, and they generously and lovingly gave money to this program so that we could help our businesses that struggled this last year. And what happens is businesses were chosen by these other sponsors, and you will get a duck in front of the business. There is a passport that'll is the Lockport Women's Club is going to be running the craft show. They're calling it an artisan market, which if you guys are familiar with their winter Christmas crossroads, which I love, and I know so many people in our community, but in the surrounding communities come out for that. They are fantastic at what they do, and they're going to be running our Canal Days show, so it can only be even more spectacular. So I think that is a wonderful thing to look forward to. The next thing that I want to talk about are the car shows, and I know we heard from everyone, everybody wanted something, so we tried to accommodate everyone. So this coming summer, the car show is going to be back down on State Street. The businesses loved it and thrived down there. The car show people loved it. And we're still going to have music down there, and the DJ and the restaurants will be open. But we're also going to have the music back here at City Hall in partnership with the Park District and also with the Lockport Township. So we are thrilled, and we'll also have the farmers market. So there's so much that will be available to you this summer, and for you to hit both, whatever floats your boat. It'll be a lot of fun, and we hope that you will come out and support it. I am so looking forward to Spooky Night Out. We have the #1 haunted house in Illinois, and we rate even very high in the United States. So it is incredible that we get to host an event here at Hell's Gate, and it's a costume event, and again, it is sponsored by our very own Lockport Women's Club, which we are proud to work with, and they do such a spectacular job. There is food, there is music, there is a tour of the haunted house. If haunted houses are not your thing, you can go through with the lights on. I'll be there with you. Okay, the next thing that we've got going on is at our Roxy Theater. And you guys, those of you that love film, they are doing a short film festival. It's our Midwest Waterway Short Film Festival. And you can submit your own video, which we hope that you will do, and there are monetary prizes involved with this, but you can also just come and see the short films. And I have to say, it is so interesting and so entertaining. And just as a side note, the film that is kind of clipped right here, this is a film by Eric Fisher, and we're very fortunate because Eric Fisher is doubly talented, probably more so than that, but he is also doing one of our ducks. And if you see it at Lock and Mule, or if you've seen it on social media, he's our guy. He's so talented. But there are so many opportunities to see some really cool work at the film festival, and we hope that you guys will look for the information coming out about that soon. Now, this is a new situation that we are bringing to the community, and we really hope that you love it as much as we do, and we hope that you'll embrace it. We know that we've been through a year of separation, and this is supposed to be the year of reconnecting with our neighbors and with our friends. And we thought, how do we do that in such a big community. I know we have all these events that you can come to, but what if we could bring an event to you and your community? And we want to do the neighborhood block party. So what the city has done is we have set aside money for each of your communities, and you can set up your own neighborhood block party. If that means supplementing money for food, if it means getting jumpies for your community, how you guys want to use it and create it and possibly bring music, that's up to you and your community. All you have to do is reach out to one of your aldermen and they will help you get started. And we really hope that you will take advantage of this really wonderful opportunity, because I think it'll be a lot of fun. Well, on that note, I hope you feel like we've got enough going on this summer, because we are so excited about what is to come. And I am going to bring back Mayor Streit.
Fantastic. Thank you, Wendy. Great job, as always. It really was good. Thank you. You know, obviously we're coming out of a very dark year, and you know, we decided to go ahead and plan events along with you know, our partners in the Park District and the Chamber and the Township. You know, the numbers are trending well. It looks like you know, vaccines are going and moving in the right direction, so that, you know, we didn't want to get into the middle of the summer and have nothing planned if in fact, you know, we really emerge out of this COVID. So it's looking good. So we wanted to be ready if the numbers hold, and we're excited that everyone's been planning these things. So speaking of that, let's just start with, you know, let's start a little bit with all the stuff that happened this past year. I think we need to address it. You know, it was a dark year. And, you know, in the beginning, we did a lot of different things. As you guys remember, some of these things, whether it was when the restaurants closed and we ordered people to, you know, use and support our small businesses where they could. As this kept going on and being extended, you know, we did campaigns, and the city council came together and we were able to put money for grants for our small businesses. We had almost $300,000. Where we're at now, you know, the county has been working very hard to get everybody vaccinated. And as you can imagine, it's a tall order, right? I mean, you imagine given that task, hey, I need everybody in the country to be vaccinated. And so, you know, the nation has broken it down into health departments. Our Will County Health Department has been, you know, doing the best they can. And quite frankly, they're doing a good job. I know it's tough. I know a lot of folks have been frustrated at times when they can't seem to get, you know, on the list or get signed up, but slowly but surely everybody's getting their vaccinations. And I think soon enough we'll be at really good numbers where we'll reach that 70% threshold. So I want to thank the County Health Department for doing that. And, you know, one other group I wanted to thank were the fire department. The county was using our local fire departments, in this case Lockport Township Fire Department, to actually administer the vaccines. So thank you, folks from the fire department, for doing that. And thank you to the high school for opening up, you know, the gymnasium at the campus so that everybody have a place to go and do this. So it's really been a great effort between county and high school and fire department. And our staff, I know, has been trying to put as much information out on the city website as possible. So, you know, it looks like, you know, God willing, we're starting to emerge from this whole COVID pandemic. And if all goes well, as Wendy pointed out, we can start getting back together again and seeing family and seeing each other in the community. Another thing I want to talk about today is our police department. You know, actually the number one thing we are supposed to be doing as a city is safety. And so I really want to give thanks to our police department. You know, it's always been very important to us to have a very community-oriented department. And we brought Terry Lemming on board as our chief. I told him that was my big mission, was to make sure that, you know, people's first interaction with the police wasn't a bad one, right? And so is making sure that there's outreaches and ways that we're interacting, and the department either expanded that or continued with some of the things they had been doing. But really, it's just been a wonderful. This is pay for having officers out there to help direct it, or we've really been trying to get those directions cleaned up with the software companies, whether it's Google, Amazon, some of the other specific softwares. The problem that I'm having right now is that our officers are great at telling and sending in information to these software companies, but they do it through a portal that, quite frankly, it just goes into a black hole as far as we're concerned, and that's not good enough. So we're really trying to work together on a regional level now, working with the county, working in my position now as in the governmental league on the board, and same thing with the CED, to really make sure that as a region, we are pushing back hard on these software companies. There's no reason why we can't tell a software company, your route for this address is wrong, or your address for this particular business isn't on here, and these guys don't know where to go. So we need to have real-time ways of getting that information to these software companies so they can fix it. Because quite frankly, they're off and out of the neighborhoods because they're following GPS. You know, years ago, before all that, no truck driver in their right mind would have drove through a neighborhood thinking they were going to find the business park, right? So we can get this fixed, but we need to do it with a regional voice. And so we're working hard on getting that going on. And, you know, one thing I like to point out, too, is while everybody feels that this is unique, it's unique in that, you know, they're big box trucks. But, you know, this is the 9th Street Bridge truck problem years ago, right? You imagine trying to squeeze by that truck. It may not be as big, but they had problems they had to manage then. And even before that, this is a corner of 9th and State, right? And so we always have, you know, this is a city that has always been known for moving goods. And so it's not a unique new problem, but it's something that, you know, we can manage and we will manage as we move forward. Another thing, too, that I think is important for us to acknowledge is just the rash of car break-ins throughout the whole corridor of western and southwestern suburbs. We've worked to get, I asked the chief to start working with other departments, and they have been, working with the county and getting everybody's information together. And when I asked them to do that, we were able to see the patterns, able to see where these folks are coming from, and starting to trace it back to the source. And so this is very frustrating, I know, for both us, for residents, for law enforcement, to get these people that are, you know, driving miles to come out here and pick on easy targets. The biggest thing we can do is lock your doors. These guys aren't breaking windows. They're not smashing stuff. They want to be quiet, get in and get out. Please lock your doors. But ultimately, our department is working with a number of other departments in the region so that we can really try to tighten this up. So thank you to the police department for their hard work. You know, another interesting thing, too, that we have is we have a resident named Rich Wostocki, and you know, he's a former police officer, lives here in town. And he does a program, and he's done it for our schools, and I've attended these seminars, and it's really about teaching parents and children about the dangers of the you know, apps and being online and predators. It's just amazing how terrible it can be. And Rich is great at showing parents where the hidden apps can be and how their kids can get bamboozled. If you haven't been to one of his seminars, we usually have them hosted at the schools, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm telling you, man, when you attend one of those seminars, the first thing you're going to do when you leave is take your kid's phone and throw it out the window, because it's just really heavy-handed. He's also very good, too. He worked with our police department to help them understand how to trace cyber crimes. That was something we were lacking in, so Rich really brought his expertise to our department for that. So I just want to say thank you to Rich, again, one of our residents who's just highly skilled with that. You know, there's things like our Citizens Police Academy. If this is something you're ever interested in, please reach out. It really gives you an entirely different perspective on the police department. And one other thing, too, I want to mention. Although the fire department's not under city's jurisdiction, they have their own board and they're their own voting district and taxing body, but I do want to thank them. You know, we've worked together over the years to come up with sprinkler and fire alarm grants, which have really helped bring life safety into our buildings. So with a combination of the city and the fire department, we've been able to make that happen. That's led to some life safety awards, because, you know, people in bigger picture recognize just what a great thing that is. And they've also been really good at helping us do development, especially when it comes to downtown. You know, one of the problems that we have are putting a new building into a small footprint, and how do we address things like, you know, elevators and life safety things, and they've really been good with us about working through the code to make sure that these things can be accommodated without being so obnoxious that nothing can ever get built again. So they've been really great partners. So thank you to the fire department. Another thing I want to talk about is finances. You know, we've got a lot of cities took COVID really hard, hit their finances hard. It really brought them to our knees. Fortunately, that wasn't the case for the city of Lockport. We have a very good diversified tax base. We don't have all our eggs in one basket. And so when COVID came, we were able to stay financially stable. In fact, like I said earlier, we were even able to put together money for a grant program because of that. So this kind of diversified funds that you see here, you know, while most of it is real estate taxes, you know, we still have a lot of ability. I don't know what that means, Skip.
Make that bigger.
Oh, make that bigger. Oh, okay. Skip is doing this. I'm like, am I supposed to talk longer? Okay. So that's really what this is about. You know, we've been doing really great. Our finance department, I can't say enough about Lisa and Maggie. We've been AA rated by Standard & Poor, about as good as it gets for a community our size. We continue to win excellence awards for how our finances are put together. Our 6th Distinguished Budget Award as well. We've just had a very successful audit from the state on our MFT fund usage. And you know what, even today, we still have $10.5 million in cash reserves. And that's even after the Chevron purchase. We have 10.5 now after that purchase, and we'll talk about that later. But this is kind of our sales tax. You can see that we took a little bit of a dip during COVID, but not much. And that's because we had stores like grocery stores and Walmart where people were still able to continue to shop. So we didn't take really a big hit there, and we're on track, I believe, for getting back to full sales tax receipts next year. And, you know, the other important thing, too, is, and I probably should have had this upside down because it looks like our sales tax rate is growing, but it's really not. 2020 is up here. You know, each year as we've moved forward, we have successfully lowered the city sales tax rate. I'm very proud of that because we've done a lot of, you know, infrastructure work, and we've done a lot of things in the city. And at the same time, we've been able to lower our rate each year for the last 6 years. And that's a big thing. It's, again, through, I believe, good management from our staff, which I thank very much, and good oversight by our council. So finances, we're in good shape. And I want to thank everybody for that. Next thing, I want to talk a little bit about public works. So there's a number of projects coming up. Anybody who's been through these projects knows that, man, these things are tough, right? These are some pictures from last year when we were fixing out sewer and water main and road reconstructions in our city. And yes, they're very painful when they're happening. I know it, and they're tough. But when it's done, it's really nice. You know, we have the streets are you know, pothole free, and we have like neighborhoods that you can drive through, and everything is cleaned up. The water starts to improve because we're getting rid of those old, you know, kind of worn out, rusty water mains. When we bring in our new water mains, the water quality begins to improve. And then, so I know these are tough while they're happening, but like I said, there's a big payoff. This year we'll be doing road work mainly from 5th to 9th, 6th to 9th, kind of in that section of Lockport that's north of 159th Street, down over by State. So we'll be taking care of a lot of that. That's where a lot of the big projects will be this year. There'll also be some stuff from Janice Street, Connor to Briggs, a big storm sewer thing, which will help some drainage. But the other thing, and this is really important too, is not just about fixing and doing major reconstructions for stuff that had been falling apart for decades. It's also about how we take care of our existing roads in newer neighborhoods. When we do resurfacing projects like we're doing in Willow Walk this year, this is a way we maintain the road so that, you know, a future council doesn't end up in the same position we had when we took over, which was really critical problems that we had to address and cost a lot more than they would have if we had just taken care of them over time. So we continue to maintain our roads as well. There'll be some new State Street work, which we'll talk about in a minute. But another really big one too, just to give you an idea, you know, this is kind of the amount of money we spent on infrastructure projects. I know you can't see this, but this is 18 million, 16 million. We've really been putting a lot of money and effort into getting our city squared away the infrastructure wise. Nobody wants to live in a city where it's deteriorating. So, you know, we really had a good, strong CIP plan over the years, and we've been sticking to it. Another big thing that's coming up is well 15. So we all know that water quality in town can be problematic. Again, fixing water mains has had a major effect on local areas. That'll continue to improve. But we also dug a new deep well. The new deep well is well 15, and it's actually located right up here at 151st Street. And so what happens with this, all of our other wells are shallow, which means they have a lot of sediment, a lot of iron, and although we've put some iron filtration things and other stuff in those, it's still the shallow wells. So deep well 15 is our first deep well, and it's really going to add a new, cleaner water that doesn't have all those sediments. And because we added a new water main going down Gauger, currently we had two big water mains, one that comes from the north and then one that goes east and west, and they met downtown. This will create a loop so that we'll be able to circulate this new water and blend it with our shallow wells and circulate it throughout the city. So that addition of that deep well is really a big thing, and we're looking forward to it coming online sometime this year. Right now it's going through all the IEPA tests and things look good, so we're looking forward to adding that. And it was really about taking care of our water system and trying to improve water quality here in the city. And lastly, with Public Works, I just want to say thank you to all the employees. I want to say thank you to Brent. He's our Public Works Director. But, I mean, everybody from Joe Cronin to Scott Strutchin to everybody who's in the department. I mean, these guys work like beavers. You guys know how it is when the roads and the snow. I always get good compliments. And I know there's some outliers and stuff like that that happen. But overall, our guys do a really, really good job clearing the roads out, and very grateful for that. And I'm also thankful to all the employees in Public Works for just putting up with a lot of the cockamamie requests I throw at them all the time. And also when residents call me, I pass it right on to them, and they take care of stuff. So bravo to Public Works. Really thankful for all the stuff you guys do. All right, what else we got? I want to talk a little bit about, let's talk about the streetscape in downtown. So, let me get it on up there. So, you guys are all familiar with downtown. One of the big stinky things among 1,000 others during COVID was that I couldn't have a real good ribbon cutting for downtown. You know, when the streetscape was finished, and we're really looking forward to just telling everybody in the city to come down and see the new streetscape. Then COVID hit, it kind of blew things up. But most of you have gotten down here one time or another anyway since this, and it's really been a great improvement and really started to attract outside development as well. Projects that you see down there, you're just really private investors saying, wow, the city cares about itself. This seems to be the right place to invest. And so the streetscape has been a really great project. The Asiago benches, thank you, Patty Pastori, for the Sister City program. So there's been a lot of good things. We are going to expand the streetscape a little bit. We are going to go from State along 9th up to Hamilton. That'll be that little stub between like where the Mangia Pizza is down to State Street. So we'll get that work done. And we're also going to do a little extension from 10th to 11th. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, dear God, that was the worst experience of all time. And it was when we redid State Street. But this won't be nearly that terrible. It's all surface work. We already did the hard work, which was down below, which was tearing up, filling the vaults, putting all the water mains, putting all the sewer and gas. All that stuff was already done. This was just us working within our means and staying within budget. When we ran it through the first time, she was our first female police officer back in the 50s. She spent her whole career here in Lockport. And so they should have another picture of it. There we go. This is it without us standing in front of it. So it's a really great little fire pit. Gilkerson Masonry put it together for us. There it is at night. It's got a little timer in the back like a jacuzzi. So if you just want to go down there at night and turn it on, it's got a timer. Keep the flame on for an hour or so, and it cuts off automatically. But it's a nice dedication to our police and fire departments, which used to be in that very building. And it's another just way of the community saying thank you for their service. Some other things that we've done in the downtown, we did consolidate a number of parcels in the back, and we added a whole bunch of new parking. That's public parking. So that's been good. Another thing that we did was on the weekends we added complimentary valet parking. So these things we felt were very important. We needed parking. Everybody, is always concerned about it. But even as we gain more businesses down there, as we get more sit-down restaurants, we've got 2 new ones, and they're very popular. And then we have some other places too, like the Shack and so forth. We just need more and more parking all the time. Building a parking deck, it's always been floated, but those are like $4 million a level. So instead, we just experimented with the valet parking, which is really, it's all paid for by the gaming funds, which by city ordinance are earmarked for downtown use anyway. Half the gaming consoles are in downtown, so essentially these businesses are paying for it with their own revenues. And I think it's a great way. People have said a lot of great things. It also helps with handicap parking because anybody can go and park and have their car, parked for them, and they don't have to park far away from these businesses. So it's had a lot of great benefits. And again, we can tweak it, change it, and really doesn't have any long-lasting effects if it's negative, which it hasn't been so far. So that's been a really good thing, is the valet system. Oh, another thing too is more and more people are downtown. We are getting some pedestrian flashing cross lights. There's going to be one at 11th and there's going to be one at 8th. So that way, just press the button and you're not just waiting for the lights to change, but flashing lights come up so that we can help with pedestrian safety as everybody crosses the street. And again, it's getting more and more crowded down there all the time. So this is it's a good thing. A couple other things that are happening are some new developments. The People's Cleaner building should be getting restored, actually to the way it looked originally, before even it had that kind of southwest facade thing. So that's a picture of the building. They're going to be doing work on that soon. Another building which will be coming in is at 1016 South State. This will be between the Stagecoach building and Jackie's Pub. It'll have retail on the first floor and have living space on the second and third. But this is really good. I mean, when you guys if you ever look at old pictures of Lockport, you realize that every empty spot downtown used to be a building. It's just over the years, they just got destroyed by fire and were never rebuilt. Now we're starting to see new buildings come back, and that's a testament to just the success of how our downtown is, how we've been really able to turn it around. So it's just good stuff coming. And of course, that doesn't mean that there's not challenges. So one of the things here that I put up and that we're going to be doing is meeting with the Downtown Development Committee. This is where I've had Lance, our community development director, is reached out to all the businesses using Main Street to help us with this. Get all the property owners, all the business owners, we're all going to get together. It's our Downtown Development Committee, and really start hashing out some of the solutions for problems that we're all facing. Again, we get more restaurants, we have a bigger workforce, so they're taking up parking. Where do we park these folks? How does the valet, is it working out? People have been putting curbside pickup signs, but everybody can't reserve a spot. So how do we work out all these kinds of things? These are good problems to have. I'd rather be solving problems of being too busy and having too many people down there than having a ghost town. So we will work together with all of our businesses to address these things together collectively. So good stuff in downtown. Another thing I wanted to mention was our park district. We have a fabulous park district. They do a lot of really good things. As Wendy mentioned earlier, I just closed something I didn't mean to close. I can fix that. The high school, if I can get it up, yeah, there we go. I talked to Bob McBride, periodically throughout this pandemic, and just dealing with the struggles. And I know number one goal through this whole thing is to make sure we get kids back into class for in-person learning. Throughout this whole pandemic, they've done what they could with either remote, and fortunately we're a one-to-one district, which means every kid has a computer. So when we did have to do all at-home learning, all our kids were fully equipped. When we were able to open up for hybrid, they've done a great job keeping everybody safe. They had athletic camps during the summer, and all without illness. So they've done a really good job, or anything that was, dire. And even with all this, they had a 95% attendance rate, which is really spectacular, because knowing a teacher myself who teaches in a different district, it's really hard to get kids to attend the school back during the shutdown. So just bravo to all that the high school has done. And I would mention every other school district in town too, but it's just like there's so many of them. I usually just focus on the high school. I don't mean to exclude you, because I know you guys all had the same challenges and you've also met them wonderfully. So thank you. You know, another cool thing too I wanted to mention with the high school is their a cappella band, Off the Record. These guys, let me get this up. Holy cow. There it is. And if you guys have ever heard these kids sing, man, but it's like a Glee over there. All spontaneous dancing and perfectly choreographed. They are really good. You got to listen to them if you get a chance. I know Janine had sent me their YouTube clips, and it was really stunning. And they just won an international a cappella contest, second year in a row. They get the highest ensemble score in the country, and they're going on to the regionals for in the nationals. So I just had to bring it up because they're really fun and really talented. And you know, other things that the high school's done that's really grateful for too is you know, they just finished up their pickleball court, you know, over there at the Garfield Park. I don't really know what pickleball is, but it sounds fun. How can anything be called pickleball be unfun? And then they also have this kind of AstroTurf thing, which looks like the Thunderdome. So I can only imagine the cool stuff they'll have going on in there. But I really want to thank the high school for all that they do in our community, and for putting money into the park, and really adding parking down there for the ball field. So it looks great. Thank you. Let's see. Why don't we jump to let's jump to development for a second. So a lot of cool things happening in the city, even through this pandemic. You know, businesses and entrepreneurs have opened up businesses here. They've seen the value of being in Lockport. The Holiday Inn Express just recently opened. Not the first hotel in Lockport, of course. I've seen that in the news sometimes, but it's certainly the first in a long time. So we're happy to see them here. Lock and Mule, of course. I'd been courting those guys for years to come here, and finally opened, and we're really grateful that they are. So it's a great spot. The old wood store with Wes down there has some really cool things. Jersey Mike's is here now. We've got our Smoothie King, so all those things up at the highway development have been building out, including Open Bottle, which now we have this nice little plaza there with Chipotle Mod and Open Bottle all in one space. The Shack, sorry, Caleb, Bob, I didn't get a chance to run down and get a picture where you guys are open. This is when you guys are still building out. But Shack is great. Papa Joe's. I know these guys have been open for a while, but I always felt like they got the short end of the stick because they opened their indoor sitting dining restaurant like right when COVID started. So I think they always, but I'm really grateful that they're able to still be here. So please go visit Papa Joe's. I know some folks are there right now for this presentation. Popeyes is building out up at Lockport Square. The Cupcakery with Jess, it's really fun to go down there and visit in downtown. And then there's just, a whole bunch of other businesses too. Midwest Orthopedic at Rush, Americuts, Independent Escrow Services, Accessories of Chicago, lots of flowers down here again in downtown. Brown's Chicken is back. For a while they kind of went away. But for those of you fans of Brown's Chicken, they're here again. Back to our roots. So a lot of different businesses opening up over time. Did I hear my mother-in-law give a yay for Brown's Chicken? And some other things too that are coming. I talked to Mike Bettenhausen the other week. They're still on target for opening. Obviously, COVID kind of slowed their roll for a lot of things, but they're back on track to open their Jeep Chrysler dealership. Again, we haven't had a car dealership since one was downtown where Lock and Mule was. That used to be a car dealership back in the day. So, it's nice to see people are back with that product. The car wash where the old Pizza Hut sat abandoned forever. It's finally knocked down. Those guys will be moving forward this year. B&B Produce. They've been down on State Street for a long, long time, outgrew the space, wanted to stay here in Lockport, which we're grateful they did. So now they're almost done with their new building. They've been building it out over by where the Bow Dome is in that business park. Looking forward to that being finished up. The old Tessone properties. They were purchased by developers who are looking to do mixed-use buildings, which has the retail on the first floor, living space on the second and third. They'll have their own parking spots. But they purchased the property. We're looking forward to their submittals. This is kind of an example of the buildings that they would look at building. It's not an exact representation, but that's the models that they've put before us. So we're really looking forward to seeing those lots cleaned up. Joe Gallus and his people, they fixed up the whole promenade over there. Looks great. They have beautiful apartments in there now with balconies, and the businesses are really been spruced up. It's really nice to see that have been taken care of. You know, another sit-down restaurant. And we all know that sit-down restaurants is something that we've all been wanting for a long time. And so with the addition of Papa Joe's and Lock and Mule and Stagecoach, and we've also had this addition of Toro, which is a Mexican-Asian fusion, right? That's going to be coming in, probably open real soon. This is their murals they got going on, and it's going to be where the old Aurelio's used to be. So it won't be another pizza place, which we all are always grateful for. Not that we don't love all of our pizza, but it always seems. And by the way, that pizza thing where everybody's like, we only have pizza in this town. I have a friend who's a mayor in New Jersey, and he says that's the same complaint. So it's like a national complaint when everybody thinks only their city has more pizza than the other cities. It's not true. But anyways, Toro's going to be opening soon. I'm looking forward to that as well. So a lot of cool development coming up. All right, what else we got going on? Let me talk about this one. This is actually probably the biggest news of all, and that has to do with the Chevron parcel. So first off, if you guys, and I've talked about this at State of the Cities many times in the past, has to do with the Makers Park. Always wanted to go in a direction where we have an opportunity for small entrepreneurs, smaller users. Not everything needs to be a 500,000 square foot building. I have a lot of people over the years that have come to me just looking for 1,500 square feet of industrial use because they make stuff and they need a space to do it. And we've never had that. So I've really been working hard to provide those opportunities. One of the things that we came up with, if you recall from past State of the Cities, is the Maker Park. And when we did the feasibility study for it, it's meant to be in the Chevron parcel. They told us about doing a phase one, a smaller use, which is what we did. So phase one here for this was right there north of the Gaylord building. And we have our first tenant. First tenant is Second City Greens, and they're great. They're hydroponic growers. They sell their leafy greens to our local restaurants and to residents. And they're the first use here at the Gaylord building. It's very fun. American Fire Fighting Systems, by the way, if I can get these guys up. They're right there on New Avenue. These guys actually cut up shipping containers. Now, they usually use them for fire training, but when we talked to Red, who owns the place, he's like, you know what, for 20 grand, I can cut up a shipping container. I could put doors, windows, climate control it, and everything else. So you figure for $20K, and if you outfit it with another $5,000 or $10,000, depending on what your business is, it's yours. Put it on the pad. This is kind of the configuration right now where Second City Greens is. Again, it's just north of the Gaylord building. This is where their trailer is. But the configuration that Lance Thies laid out, our development director, we have lots of opportunities for this. And they can look really cool, as you saw by those pictures. So we're looking forward to, in fact, just the other day, I had another user come to us, very interested, a local resident, and wants to open their shop down here. So that's a unique, interesting way of having people have their own little business with their own autonomy, and they can always pick it up and leave one day. They don't have to it's an investment that's theirs, and we like that. It's very important. So that was phase one. Phase two, which I won't get into detail because we've talked about this many times, but it's the larger park, right, where we have a whole courtyard system, and it was always meant to be on the Chevron parcel. And we own some of the land there, not all of it, but again, I'll just go through because I don't want to hit you guys with the same information again that I've done in the past. But we're one step closer to seeing this kind of stuff happen. And the reason is because we purchased the Chevron parcel. Let me get this up. So this was a really big move for the city. So as you guys know, this used to be the old Texaco property. Chevron purchased Texaco, which meant they inherited this old decrepit oil refinery. They spent like $150 million remitting it, turning it back into a brownfield. But it's always been of a very big concern to the city of Lockport what was going to happen to that property. Excuse me. What was going to happen to the property. It has heavy zoning heavy industry zoning, so that meant, you know, it couldn't be residential. It couldn't be like a play park or anything like that. And the only people that have kicked the tires on that are everything from a rail yard to an intermodal to distribution to trucking, all the things that would just be the worst possible use for that space. I mean, you could see its proximity to downtown. You could see it's like 3 times larger than our downtown. Whatever was going to go there was going to define the city. So a while back, we did convince them to swap some property out. We used to own this retention pond, and when I was trying to get some property from them years ago so I could create a buffer between the West Side residents and anything bad that may have happened up here, God forbid. But they land swapped us. They swapped our retention ponds for this little L. So we had that, and that's why we did the feasibility study for the Makers Park in the first place, because it was like, okay, we do have a foothold there, and so that's why we moved forward. But they recently, and we talked to them about purchasing the property in the past, but it was always thought to be way out of our price range, and anything that would have been, wise to do. But when they put it up for auction, it kind of came back what people were willing to pay for it, and they were like, you know what, allow us the opportunity to purchase it, mainly because the people that were still at the auction were not the kind of users we wanted to see. They were all logistics, all trucking, and it would have been, they had the zoning rights for it. So even with PUDs and other limitations, they still would have been able to build. And so we took advantage of this opportunity and purchased the property. Now, this picture here was a business park model that Chevron had worked with the Citizens Advisory Panel, something I had been a part of even before I became mayor, which was acceptable to us. It was smaller buildings with smaller users. But again, this never came to fruition for a number of reasons. One is the West Side had long been in a floodplain through a long, arduous process. We've recently gotten out of that with the IEPA, so now it's no longer in a floodplain. So now it is developable this way, which 6 months ago it wasn't. So that was one aspect of it. But, another thing, too, was problematic. Chevron always wanted to sell it to one developer all at one time. And that wasn't conducive to being able to sell it a parcel at a time to different users. These are things we can do. And I want to keep the Citizens Advisory Panel together. And I've asked for volunteers, anybody who's interested in looking at the future of this property and how it can be developed in a way that is beneficial to the entire city, please reach out to us. And I'd love to have you as part of that. Because we can do something really special and fantastic. And I'll say this, I only put it out on Facebook, and I already had a user come to see us. He came to see Lance and did a walk through the property. And it's exactly the kind of user you would want to see down there. I don't want to say what it is simply because, at the moment it's just talk. But if it comes to fruition, it's a really, really cool use and would have never happened if we hadn't purchased it. So, and we haven't even started marketing this yet and doing our outreach. But developing this is going to take a lot of vision. It's going to take a lot of leadership. And I believe that, we can do this. We've had a great council with good vision and the staff. And so I feel confident that together we can move forward and really develop something there that's special for the city. So we're looking forward to that whole parcel. And then what else we got? I guess lastly, let me just talk a little bit about some initiatives that are as we move forward. Here's this one's kind of a big one. So you guys have probably seen it online or in the news or on social media, this whole drama between the Homer Highway Township and the Homer Township and the Village of Homer Glen. There's always been a big point of contention about the Village of Homer Glen actually maintaining their own roads with their own property tax, which they've never had. For, since 2003 or so, they've had to rely on the Homer Highway Department to fix their roads, which is, to quote our favorite governor, the unholy alliance, right? So it was problematic. And it was problematic because what it meant for our residents is that anybody who lived east of Farrell Road, right, in Homer Township had to pay a very, very high rate of taxes to take care of roads that weren't even in their city. It was very problematic. And for, years I had been pushing the Township Highway Department and the village that's like, guys, you got to change this. This isn't working. And so, some smaller compromises over the years were just, it wasn't working. So ultimately, and I'm grateful to the village of Homer Glen and the Highway Department for finally being willing to take care of their own roads. Right now, there's just a dispute between those three entities about what's the right process. The judge should be making a decision actually any day. We feel pretty confident, though, that he's going to say, yes, you can move forward following these steps. So in short time, our residents should be seeing a big tax rate decrease if you're east of Farrell Road in Homer Township, because you no longer have to subsidize the village of Homer Glen's roads. The other thing that we've been in meetings with them about is making sure that any division of assets, our residents have paid into that pot for many years, that we make sure that after depreciation, we get our fair share of those assets. So everybody's actually in agreement on that. Nobody's disputing it. Really, it just came down to what's the right process to do it legally. So we're looking forward to seeing that happen. That'll make a big difference in your tax bill if you live east of Farrell. Another thing, of course, that we've been talking about forever is the Bruce Road Caton Farm Bridge. It's always been a county-led project. It's not a Lockport project. But, we need to keep the pressure on. There's been a change in leadership at the county. We want to make sure that the new leadership understands how important this project is to keep moving forward. But one of the things that has always been really problematic is when they first designed this bridge, this is how long this has been being kicked around, they designed it without even acknowledgement that 355 was going to be built or here. It completely went past 355 and connected, like a mile away from the intersection, which meant the original plan was useless. And the other thing, too, which has been very problematic with this particular plan, is although they require a reconnection to the state in order to get federal funding, it never included an interchange at Bruce Road. If this doesn't connect to the highway off of Bruce Road and instead turns before it or goes after it, it's useless. It has to connect to the highway. And because it's a tollway, the state project and the county said, we can't mix those two projects because they're different governing entities. It's the kind of stuff that makes you crazy when you get into politics and you just see all the bureaucracy. But we as a city have reached out to the tollway to build this interchange regardless, because we know it has to be in place. I'm not looking for traffic to go up Gauger. The state wants to fix that road, and because they have to cross all their T's and I's, that's fine. All the traffic needs to go right here. And if it doesn't happen, again, the whole bridge is useless. So we put a little bit of money for pre-phase 1 engineering with the tollway. They already have all the land acquisition. This is really just us working through the first steps to make sure the geometry and get it down on paper. So we will continue to pursue this as we continue to work with the county to ensure that this bridge finally does get built one day. So that's the status of that. In the meantime, as we try to relieve traffic on the bridge, because right now everything comes over this 2-lane road, is anybody who takes 135th Street Bridge to avoid the 9th Street Bridge, it's fine, but if you're coming down 171 and there's one truck making a left turn or 5 cars making left turns, you could be stuck behind them for a long time and back up traffic. So we have been working towards at least a slip lane here so that southbound traffic coming off of New Avenue can just continue to flow and not get backed up there. That's a project that we are currently working on with IDOT. The center, Route 7 center lane, that's almost at phase 3. Probably next year, it looks like we should be able to break ground with it, but we've already gone through all the planning and processing and engineering in phases 1 and 2, and the state's working with us. We have some grant money. This allows a turn lane on 9th Street for the length of it. Right now, once you get up by Garfield or so, if anybody's trying to make a left turn into Tuffy, right, it backs up traffic forever. This will allow people to be out of the way and have their own turn lane. And we already have all the right-of-way. I mean, all those shoulders are really wide. We don't even have to take really any property acquisition to do this project. So we're looking forward to seeing that come to fruition. This may seem like a smaller project, but this is I asked the Army Corps and IDNR to start working on getting lock number 1 stabilized. It's important for 2 things. Yes, it's very historical to us. We are the city of historic pride, so seeing that stabilized is good. But if this were to collapse and there's a lot of growth in it and it's got potential to go bad. It's not like when the Seven Arches Bridge collapsed and it's like, oh, that's too bad. If this collapses, this is going to cause real problems because it will back up the canal. And we spent a lot of money to help the residents on the west side get out of the flood zone by fixing the 13th Street culvert, by seeing landscape changes at the Chevron property. The last thing I want to do is cause a problem if this were to collapse in on itself. So we are working with, like I said, IDNR and the Army Corps to get that stabilized and fixed up. So as I wrap this up, hopefully I'm not talking to empty restaurants and everybody left, but as to wrap, my family felt too guilty to leave, so they're all still sitting here. But, you know, lastly, as we move forward, one of the things I started was the Lockport Strong Book Club. And it was really about, you know, just keeping communication, good, honest, open dialogue, you know, not at city hall meetings. You can't have any good, honest dialogue there with residents. It's like they have time limitations, and it's just who wants to talk to somebody sitting at a podium. This was a way for residents really to come together, and it's really been nice. Our first book was about, you know, trying to sift fact from fiction. The second book we're working on right now is Strong Towns, which really looks at, like, what are the sustainable ways of development? What are the things we're doing wrong? What are the things we're doing right? What are the things we can do differently? How can we build sustainable cities that last millennia, right? You can go to Varna, Bulgaria. The city's been there for 5,000 years and still looks like a village, right? How do you do that without the great suburban sprawl? What are ways that we can develop that are smart? And so, but we need community buy-in. We really do for this kind of stuff. And it's not just as simple as you think it is. So I really encourage you to be part of the book club. Our next meeting is in April. We're doing it through the White Oak Library, so feel free to contact them and get signed up. And then lastly, speaking of strongest towns, they were also, that particular book was hosting the Strongest Town in America contest. Of course, I believe we're the strongest town in America. We already won the first round, right, in this contest. It's like brackets right now. And Lockport, of course, you guys did beautifully, just like we did with the 101 Mix Best Burb, right, years ago. We just completely swamped all the competition. Guess we vote Chicago style over and over again. So don't hesitate to go back. There is a URL that you can click on to go do it. I think round 2 voting ends in a day or so. But it's this long URL, so it's useless. So either go to the City of Lockport's Facebook page. Make sure you go to the Facebook page called City of Lockport that has our logo on it. The other one's not the City of Lockport's Facebook page. Or you can go to my Stephen Stripe Facebook page. We both have links on there so that you can go vote. And let's swamp. Right now we're up against Middleton, Wisconsin, right? So we should be able to swamp those guys. Let's get in there and vote. And if you don't have Facebook, well, God bless you, because it melts your brain. I don't blame you. But in any case, I'll leave it with that. Thank you so much for all that you do. Looks like Wendy's got something to add.
Yeah, one more thing. So we just want to remind you, those of you that are at our restaurants right now, we know that there was some glitches with video because that's just the way life is. So if you guys would like to see the video in its entirety of what we saw today, or you want to share it out, it will be on the City of Lockport website. And there was some people that missed our thank you to our sponsors. So if you could just run through that.